Welcome back to another episode of the Astrology Star Sisters Talk Over Tea. Today we're talking about Summer Solstice 2024. And my guest is Sue Rose Minahan, founder of Talk Cosmos, and her website is talkcosmos.com. And you can email her at sueminahanastrology@gmail. And my website is alightpath.com. Welcome, Sue. Thanks for joining me today.
Hi, Liz. It's always great.
Well, thank you for being here, and we're going to get started on talking about the solstice.
Okay.
So, summer solstice at Stonehenge, and I'm going to make that bigger so people can really see it. So beautiful, the sunlight on the day of the solstice.
For people in the Northwest, they can go down to Mary, it's down on the eastern side, lower, and they have a replica of Stonehenge.
I've been there before and walked around it, but I believe that it's closed access now and you have to get special permission to even go
Oh,
there.
dear.
So it's in Washington State, in eastern Washington, near the Columbia River. And I don't remember the
Yes.
name of the town, but
Starts
that
with
gives...
Mary. Mary something. I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay. So we're starting summer solstice. Solstice is Latin word sol for the sun and sistri for to stand still. The solstice, the sun rises and sets farthest north or southern declination and latitude.
Yeah, those are the same. One
Mhm.
astronomical, for folks. It's a learning process. Yeah.
In the Northern Hemisphere, it's the shortest night and longest day. And in the Southern Hemisphere, it's the longest night and shortest day.
Yep.
It's the first day of summer, and it's usually on June 21st or 22nd. But I found that sometimes it's on June 20th.
And this is why, yes, this can be the shortest, the opposite with the Southern Hemisphere.
Yes, this is how the earth tilts and gives the scientific meaning behind everything. So I thought this was interesting that people could take a look at and gander.
Yeah, those two tropics are as far as the sun will move when it's directly above Earth at the highest point at noon. So it's a certain latitude, which is only 23 and a half, although it's tiny, but that's a good average, 23 and a half degrees.
Yes, thank you. Okay. So this year, the solstice is on the 20th, and it's the earliest since 1796. So that's quite a long time. And there was another one on the 20th between 1796 and 1892, and I have the time on there too for those that are interested. And I did a search for the next 100 years, and there's several in the future that will be on the 20th, so it won't be as a rare of an occurrence as it is for us this year.
You know what intrigues me is our United States history. And of course, you have people from all around the world listening. But because we're here in the United States, because we know that with our revolution, that during this time, the war itself was over with the Paris Treaty in 1783. It had stopped fighting in 1781. However, there was this long process of finding a new constitution that really would work for the government. And then also, where were they going to put the capital? And there were so many other aspects. So it's amazing that it's hard to understand, okay, what's the meaningfulness between the 20th? But it could be in some strange way an early preparation for consciousness everywhere, at least here, maybe other countries, because right now there's much that seems to be refocusing. We've had a Pluto return here, and we're going to have another Pluto return. I mean, there's many Yeah, I don't know how to put it, but I was just trying to put 2 and 2 together, and it's like, well, maybe we're in a reformulation of something early
Well,
work.
rare occurrences, I like to call it. You
Okay.
know, that they don't happen very often, but they do happen. It's like it takes about 245 to 250 years to have a Pluto return. So that's what I would call a rare occurrence. So I found it interesting to find that this is the earliest solstice in quite a number of years. So that's
That's
pretty amazing. And it's similar in years to when the United States became the United States, but it's off a little bit too. So,
except the development, like finding the capital, because it wasn't Washington, D.C. until about then. It had been Philadelphia, then it had been New York City. So who knows? Anyway, thank you, Liz, for indulging my abstract thinking. Like, why? How could this be useful? But I never considered that it it wasn't just more often, because I have read that it could be the 20th, 21st, 22nd. I thought, okay, fine. So this is fascinating from that standpoint. I guess we'll have to wait and see, because next we get 3 more times, perhaps in our lifetime, we can see what's happening.
well, I did run it out to 2099, and it seemed like, it was happening every few years. So it will become more
Mm,
common where just for some reason it didn't happen for a while. So, it could mean nothing or it could mean a whole lot of things. It's hard to tell. And,
yeah, wait and see.
mhm. But then we come to the birth of a rare white buffalo in Yellowstone on June 4th, which was also um, the Venus star point happening.
In
And it was
Gemini.
yes, and a Lakota prophecy of the white buffalo being born. And this prophecy is 2,200 years old, that it's a blessing and a warning. That the blessing is there's prosperity ahead, but we have to take care of Earth and the animals and humanity. And this article was in the Associated Press, so if people want to find out more, go ahead, Sue.
It is quite an extraordinary uh, event. The prophecy of these white spiritual animals, we're just researching it, but it leads to the white lion. Maurice Fernandez is so concerned with the white lions in Africa. These big top of the range predators, you might say, not really predators, but of the ecosystem, because it's also the white elephant. There's a wolf, a white wolf type. In other words, it's suggesting to us that, like cancer, take care of your kin. Like, here you have a mother and a baby, and we need to look out for each other, those that are close to us. Along with Earth, we're all connected.
Yeah, that nurturing component or archetype of Cancer, the sun going into Cancer.
Yeah, so it is remarkable, isn't it, on the Venus star point day? But that was a very powerful day. That's where there were other well, we did that last time, didn't we? The Venus star point, so people can go back and look at it. But it wasn't just the sun and Venus. It was a matter of, I'm trying to remember if it was Uranus and or Jupiter. Anyway, it was very strong with many
Yeah, and I
significances.
recorded an episode with Marcia Bouchard on the Venus star point for those that are interested in the Venus star point. That's a good
Ah,
episode to look at. So,
I will do that myself. Great.
so the Cancer archetype, Cancer is a water sign. It's cardinal, so cardinal is about initiating. The sign of the crab, and it's ruled by the moon. The mantra is I feel. It's very
Emotions.
yes, it's
It's
nurturing, mother or motherly,
yeah.
the emotion, sensitivity, intuitive, cares deeply, and the caution could be overly emotional, insecure, moody, and touchy.
Well, it's hard to always focus on where emotions are coming from, because we have emotions. And there's this old saying, what you resist persists. So you need to go, it's a lesson to realize to go through the emotions. And I think because I also have weekly do my own show, and I get mixed up which one we did and which one I've done with others. So in other words, it wasn't the Venus star point, but we were talking about, I think, Jupiter and Venus. That was it. Because
Yes.
I'm thinking that, go back to that list, Liz, if you would. Yeah, don't just, because I'm looking at the moody and the touchy and the overly emotional. But the fact is that it takes all that intuition and other people. We can step out of how we're feeling into how other people are feeling. And then we get mixed up. Like, who owns what emotions? It's very empathic. And
Right, because Cancer feels everything, whether it's yours, it's the communities, it's your friend, it's your neighbor. It's like you very feeling.
yeah, and if depending how the moon is in your own chart, because you may not have Cancer with your ascendant sun or moon, but perhaps moon's in the first house. So it's very much yourself, or maybe it's conjunct, or it's some aspect to everything where you revert back to that story, that emotional part, because it's our stories too. We put themes to our emotions, like, well, it happened because of this, and then it happened that. It's important, and we can change those.
Okay, some ideas for summer solstice. Watch the sunrise, play or
Mm.
listen to music, honor the sun with yoga or a salutation, release and reset with self care, massage, or a pedicure. It's also, to me, the releasing part. It's like we're going from spring, which springtime to me is very initiatory. Everything's growing, sprouting, the weeds, the grass. Um, we're planting our seeds, and then we it changes from all that. So we're just coming off from Gemini, like thinking. Now we're going into Cancer of feeling, and we're having better weather, sunnier days. And so now we can, go out and celebrate and have picnics in the park, or go to the lake or the beach or the mountains, spend more time with family. The kids are going to be getting out of school. So just being able to be outside more. It's also a good time to reflect and find balance, journal and meditate.
That's important because Cancer is a yin sign. It is within. And I was just reading in preparation the reminder, which I thought was powerful, is that it is a process oriented energy, because I too think of the excitement of, oh, the sun is out, the days are long, particularly there in the Northwest or on the mainland, the Northern Hemispheres. Although here in Hawaii too, I have to get up earlier to go for a walk. I can stay up later, get down, because we watch the sunset, and see the green flash on occasion. But it is that patience is what came up. And isn't that interesting? Because I think of patience with Taurus, but it's patience to wait, or for the development and process for those seeds that we did plant to mature, to prosper, to bloom, so that we can, in the autumn, harvest and take care of them.
Right.
So,
And it's like the plants that we've planted are growing, and as it changes into the summer season, then they can send their energy to their fruit or their vegetable or whatever they're producing. So that the energy shifts. So it shifts in nature, but it shifts within ourselves also.
yeah, I like your idea though, to remember to play. That is so good. It is.
And some cultures would stay up all night, watch the sunset on the eve, and then stay up all night in prayer or chant or drum, dance, all kinds of different things. And then they would wait for the sun to rise, and then they would celebrate with a big fire.
The bonfire, absolutely. It's huge with midsummer. And I was thinking that would be because the sun is out, and that way you keep the light moving, the light through the night with a bonfire. It's not just because it's not cold then, usually, not in the Northern Hemisphere. And
For the light to return the next day. So
Yeah.
here's a picture of the astrology chart for the sun ingress into Cancer, also called summer solstice. I always like to look at the solstices and equinoxes for Greenwich. And this is British summertime. So, and the sun is in the sixth house in Cancer, and also Venus and Mercury are there, um, pretty close to that sun. So it's like they're in a conjunction.
Yes. And combust, they probably couldn't be seen as they were coming down. I mean, as they were descending, because this is possibly twilight, depending where you're at. You know, the sun sets pretty quickly here, but not there where you are in the Northwest. It's
Right.
beautiful long twilights.
They'd probably be pretty difficult to see in the sky, but
No, yeah, I
that's,
don't think so because they're so close. They're under the beams, as it's called, right? With
yes.
astronomical talk. What I love about this chart here, and of course, thank you, I'm remembering this is in England. So if you go across the latitude all the way across, that would be the same latitude across the world. But look at that, it's all below the horizon except for the moon. That's ruling it, and it's up there above the horizon. So it's very
Y-
subjective, like Cancer. We're in a process.
Yeah, it's kind of asking us to go within and, maybe review some things and see, what still needs to be released, and what to bring in. What do we want to change? What do we want to grow? What do we
Yeah.
want to do?
And is yep, and trust. Like, okay, we'll go into that later.
Okay. So we're going to look at the Sabian symbols. They were channeled by Elsie Wheeler in 1925 with the assistance of Mark Edmund Jones, who was an astrologer. And Mr. Jones believed Elsie had tapped into the ancient mind matrix. There's one symbol for each degree of the zodiac. So on this chart, I've circled the ascendant or the rising sign, the MC or the midheaven, and the sun. So we're going to take a look at the Sabian symbol for the sun. Would you like to start, Sue?
Okay, for the sun, and it rounds off to the next one. So it's 1 degree because the sun's at 0 degrees. Cancer, always on the solstice is when it enters. And it's a ship. The sailors have lowered the old flag and raised a new one, meaning this radical change. And it's really a sense of our consciousness that is shifting, a big change, and not going back. It's onward. We're reorienting ourselves, and it reminds me of being on a ship. I often think of ships. I've been on them a few times. I'm not a huge sailor, but somehow it really grounds, and I understand it, where you're trying to always get your balance because the mast, is keeping that balance too, and your rudder and going into the wind, and it's always changing, but you know your destination. And so and it's beyond. You're not quite sure where it is, but here they're really that's yeah, thinking. That's all right. Go ahead, Liz.
Well, and I like that, we're in this changing time and that we have to reorient to move forward, it feels like. And um, this year is about a lot of reorienting and moving forward.
Yes, it's very apropos.
So for the ascendant it was 9 degrees of Capricorn to round it up to 10, an albatross feeding from the hand of a sailor. So, we still have this connection to a boat, perhaps, or a ship, overcoming of our fears and to reap the rewards. It's to trust. So the bird has to trust the sailor, and the sailor probably has to trust the bird. So this interaction of nature and humanity trusting each other.
So much like the white buffalo. Isn't that perfect? It's really the time where it's saying, like you said, we're in a huge orientation, transition over transition. And we're going to have to get the message. There's many times astrology and these stories keep reminding us, okay, have you got it? Have you got it? Apply it to this, apply it to that. Very good. Yeah.
Well, and like you said about the buffalo, it's like prosperity head. So trust that things are going to be okay at some point.
Yeah.
Okay. Then we have the midheaven at 15 Scorpio. Would you like to read that one, Sue?
Okay, they're children and they're playing. They have 5 mounds of sand and there they are, jumping about. And it's these early steps in the development of a mind that's seeking attunement to another evolution that's higher. So that's the model, but we often don't necessarily see the 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 veil, you could say, what's behind the veil. So here it's a transcendent and it's a mental evolution and it's also interpersonal where we're communing with our consciousness. So this free spirit is looking ahead. It's a future oriented growth. And you were just spoking the spokes of a wheel. No, speaking of trust, and it's that trust that these seeds are going to happen and that what will be produced from them,
Well, it's
possibly.
interesting. It says, it's a five-pointed star, and the number five
Mm.
symbolizes mind in its most creative and penetrating aspect. And we just had the Venus star point, which is a five-pointed star. And it just seems like, the coincidences and the similarities are amazing.
Synchronicity, yes.
So I like that, things kind of all play hand in hand, so to speak.
Ah, I think I'm taking another deep breath. This sounds better and better.
So, as I was pointing out, the moon, Mercury, and Venus are conjunct, and they're also out of bounds. Now, out of bounds is when a planet exceeds the declination of 2327 north or south. And there's a little diagram with 20 to 30 degrees declination, just so you can kind of have an idea of what that looks like. And the
I
moon
mean,
is in its phase of being out of bounds more often. And the day after the solstice is a full moon. So that moon is out of bounds. So it's like those planets are ruled by the moon in this chart. So perhaps people's emotions could be a little different than what we're used to.
it's an important story making time, I think, because our Mercury gives the words to our emotions, and the Venus tells us how we value it. And it could be a big debate, it could be a big meditation, it could be a big epiphany. Whatever it is, it has a lot of teamwork going, and it's very valuable so that we can move forward. Declination, by the way, seems latitude. So it's like on those Tropic of Cancer up there. Yeah, let's see the chart because Ceres is that is a dwarf planet, and she is about nurturing, and Pallas Athena is a goddess of strategy. She's an asteroid. So
So here's the astrology chart. And since that moon rules the sign of Cancer, the sun, Venus, and Mercury, that, our feeling nature, and maybe even, you know, being a mother or our mothers could be, prominent for this summertime in our lives.
indeed, that's a good point. Yes, it is in that respect. I'm looking at that moon though, up there in the now again, this is for Greenwich, so I understand that it's sort of a global, but it's unifying everybody. Looking at it from that standpoint, that that moon just is past a full moon. So Diana's bow, you could say it's a great time for
It's just
really making
it's
these
just
these.
before the full moon.
Oh, okay, okay. So in other words, it's really a matter. Well, then okay, it's balsamic. Oh well, we can begin to think of the seeds. But wow, in Sagittarius, it's our belief system. So we're really remobilizing our whole
Well,
strategy, you could
it's
say.
a challenge to our belief systems, perhaps.
Mm.
Could even rock us emotionally about what we've believed in. And since the sun and all these planets are below the horizon, it could be something very internal instead of external. It's like everybody could be, going through this, could be emotional turmoil, but it could just be looking at their emotions and, what is truth to them? What have they believed for so long? Because Sagittarius is about our higher beliefs, and it's like we could be disappointed that, well, that's not what I really believed it to be, and it's, I need to readjust what that is all about for me.
And I know you have other aspects that we're going to look at more particularly, but because we're looking at this chart and concentrating on the moon, I'm also noticing that moon, of course, she rules, as you had said, the moon, the sun, along with the Venus and the Mercury, that are emotions and heart, all of this. But she's also in a T square, meaning an action oriented. And this is where I was picking up on the challenge part, because that through our emotions, we're going to be acting either towards where we're destiny, our north node of individuality, or we're going to be looking at our relationships with others and going outside of ourselves, which always, when we think of others, it takes us out of there. So it's this huge play between remembering or finding, as you're suggesting. I mean, we're both suggesting as it's being put, who is we now? Is the enemy me?
Well, and since Juno in Virgo in that eighth house is opposite Saturn in Pisces, and they're squared off to the moon, so it gives the moon a little bit of a challenge, and the planets that are ruled by the moon are all out of bounds. So that even adds a little bit more to the emotions could run high or strong. And there is about a belief part component to it being the Sagittarius. But with that Juno there, it's about our relationships. You know, this is
Mm.
how I've done my relationships in the past, but now we might need to kind of review and look at that. Well, is that how I want to continue to do relationships? And Saturn is usually the container, but it's in or the rules and regulations, but it's in Pisces, so it's like to expand that, what that is all about.
I thank you for this. I'm glad this was next, because I was in error, folks. I was looking at the nodes, which are cardinal, and it's all mutable. I was looking at it too far away. Yes, this mutable, energetic consciousness going on with Saturn. I'm so glad Saturn's there. Saturn really wants us to get down to the basics. It's like, even though it's in Pisces, it's looking like basically we're one, and it's going to be, and if we're trying to connect, or we always have relationships, but how are they going to really serve and be meaningful to our story and who we are, and making them deeper? Maybe that's it. Do you think?
Well, and since Sagittarius and Pisces are both traditionally ruled by Jupiter, and Jupiter is in Gemini, which has a dual nature. So to me, that's kind of saying that two of those points of the mutable T square with the Jupiter ruling, it's like, well, maybe we need to look at our viewpoint and the other viewpoint. It's like, let's look at both viewpoints
Ah,
and, see, is that still true for us? It might.
beautiful. Yes, the and both. That
Mhm.
everything with Aquarius and the new age of 200 years of social energy with Jupiter and Saturn are doing for us. It's another opportunity. I like that.
Okay. Anything else to say about this, or we should go on to the next aspects?
Let's see what's next. Yes.
So we have some trines and sextiles. Trines are 120 degrees apart from each other. And the blue is um, Juno trines Juno in Virgo in that 8th house, trine Ceres in the 1st house in Capricorn. So they're making, a harmonious aspect to each other. And so our relationships with Juno and then Ceres is nurturing. So perhaps our relationships need some nurturing. But then Capricorn is um, maturity. So nurturing in a mature capacity, perhaps, maybe we've been not as mature as we possibly could. Maybe we need to step up a little bit and um, help some others be more responsible for themselves instead of, maybe doing too much for them, perhaps.
It's a powerful trine because trines want to get along. They want it to flow well. And Ceres is that how do we find nurturing from our grief? So let's talk about the next one because it looks like a lot of transformation that's going to help us get to this trine. Pluto.
Yes, we have Pluto and Aquarius in the 1st house, trine Uranus and Taurus, and Jupiter and Gemini. And Uranus is in the 4th house and Jupiter's in the 5th. So kind of the midpoint between them would be the exact point, but it brings them together for a trine. So Pluto's about, digging under and finding our true power, and it's in the 1st house, so it's our true power. And then the 4th is home, family, and foundation. So maybe some change might need to happen, and whether that's, to clean out a closet or move to a different location, that's to be determined. And then Jupiter in that 5th house in Gemini, it's like, are you having enough fun in your life? Creativity, playing with the kids, your grandkids, the neighborhood kids, it could be any number of things. But, finding your true power, releasing and changing maybe what you don't need, and then the opportunities come.
This is really important for that moon because the moon is in Sagittarius, meaning that it's looking to Jupiter, and Jupiter has a lot to listen to. It needs to, it can't, it can enjoy those picnics, it can have fun looking at the sunrise, the sunset, etc. But I think with that relationship of Pluto that is also with Uranus in Taurus, it wants to have it really authentic. It wants to get down to what, and it's all with, I might say in modern terms, Pluto with in Aquarius, which is ruled by Uranus. There could be when we're getting along, as we've spoken of with Ceres, grief and trauma, it's how do we reframe those stories? What perspective, what higher perspective can we gain from in order to make amends? And maybe it's not amends on the old way because you're suggesting a change. I think change is inevitable, but we got to muster up. We got to like rise to the occasion to go, okay, we're the big person now within. We're at the higher point because we're human. We're all human. We have our foibles.
Well said.
Oh, what was the last one? I'm sorry, go back if you would. Oh, was that it? We did all three? Oh, Saturn and Pisces sextile. Did we
Oh,
do
yeah,
that
we
one?
forgot. Sorry, I forgot that
That's all
one.
right. Yeah, the
Thanks for
plot
reminding.
thickens.
So Saturn in Pisces is sextile, which is 60 degrees from Ceres and Capricorn. So what do you think that means, Sue?
Oh, well, we spoke with that a little bit before. Now that's a connection. Sextiles connect, and there's a reason for it. It's not like a trine that has to be harmonious, but it also is very strongly an adaptability that wants to work. I say adaptability, but it's a sextile. So, and interestingly, Saturn rules Ceres. And
Yes.
Saturn in Capricorn usually rules out over Pisces. You read that in archetypes. Because Pisces is like, well, things are working out the way they are. And Saturn goes, well, yes, but wait a minute. It could be limited here. It doesn't have to be quite, you're the ocean, but maybe if we make a little pool here, you can swim in the pool. I don't know. We have one here that's nearby and reminds me of it. But what does it mean? It's interesting because Ceres is quite uh, double connected, right? It's got that relationship with both in many ways. It's talking to our relationships and it's talking to Saturn. And so it's kind of mitigating both of these. What's your thought?
Well, and to nurture ourselves and our bodies in a mature way. And since Saturn
Mm.
is in a water sign, Pisces, which is the ocean, it could be you could take a salt foot soak, and that's not too hard to even do at your own house. Now, if you live near ocean water, you could just walk on the beach and put your feet in the water. You could do a swim in salty water. You could even take a hot salt bath in your own home, but it's like nurturing yourself and perhaps to release any grief or sorrow that you may have, or to peel back. It doesn't mean you forget everything, but it could just help you to release all that.
For, Forgive and have compassion. They're so strong. The whole Opono, which is this, I love you. I'm
Please
sorry.
forgive me.
Thank you. Yeah, please forgive me and thank you in whichever order. And and I was thinking about the foot flexology.
Reflexology.
Thank you, reflexology, because the foot has all the acupuncture points. And I remember reading or some video I saw whatever years ago about a Asian person of great esteem. And he took his foot and he said, the big toe, if you just wiggle your big toe, move it and move it, that's the very best thing you can do. And I haven't researched that since. But still, if you flex your foot, spread your toes, do these things, especially in Pisces right now, Saturn in Pisces, I'm thinking like the somatic, body and mind. Work on the feet, like you say, soak them, get the Epsom salts out, get the little rub ball that you put over your foot and grinds in.
Well, under my desk, I have a little roller thing that I can roll my feet on whenever I sit at my desk.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm getting reflexology when I sit at my desk. So it's like I'm exercising or massaging. Oh, yeah, that's great. The
Yeah. I forget the
stone.
name of this stone, but
Yeah.
it was at a shop in West Seattle. And it cost a bit, but it was not totally exorbitant. And it's for grounding. Of course, with my Gemini, I'm like your Saturn. I
Yeah, they call
rest my
that
feet.
um, well, the grounding stone, so to speak. So
Oh,
that's
is
one
it?
name. Well, I know it has
Mm.
another name, but people can use a stone. You're supposed to
Mm.
collect a stone from the where two rivers converge, and it's like a
Oh,
grounding stone. So, all the different traditions. It's interesting.
well, that's a beautiful commentary, Liz, because right now we're with the this turning point of summer with coming into not just Cancer, but summer.
Mhm.
The longest day here in the northern and birthing, seeing not just having we've planted, but it's bringing to focus all that convergence, as you say, and with water, like Pisces and Cancer. Goodness, it's very apropos. I may not be expressing this right, but it seems to me that's beautiful. Besides that, civilization started with between the two, well, the first one, the rivers Euphrates and Tigris in Mesopotamia, back there in Babylonia, 5,500 years ago. And there were two rivers because it kept flooding and birthing. So I guess we should get ready for any emotional floods will be birthing. Yes.
Well, and I remember you the other day telling me that the Nile River traditionally used to flood from the rains at around summer solstice. Can you
Yes.
say anything more about that?
Well, thank you, Liz. That's very interesting because back when Thuban was the North Star, because they do shift, there's a Draco, the constellation holds all of them. We're going towards Vega North, which will be our North Star. But at that time, and I get mixed. Okay, I try to keep this simple because with mythology and with ancient history and all of it. But yes, from what I was reading, that Sirius at that time, which is the brightest star in the sky, which is actually south of us. Yes, and we're going south. No, we're going north. Anyway, it was the brightest star at the sky, and at that time, because there's the point being, I won't add all of this, but there's precession. Every 72 years, a star moves 1 degree. So we're talking thousands of years before. And yes, during the solstice, the Nile River flooded, and it was in Egypt. Justin will know more. You can talk to him about it too.
Well, it's just to, add that in that was a tradition of that they could look for that as a sign.
And the dog star, yes, Sirius is the dog because Sirius is next below Orion, which is a major constellation in the sky. It's all very related.
Okay, so I have a quote here from Margaret Atwood. This is the solstice, the still point of the sun, its cusp and midnight, the year's threshold and unlocking, where the past lets go of and becomes the future, the place of caught breath, the door of a vanished house left ajar. So I thought that was interesting. And this was for the summer solstice, this quote.
I love that last phrase.
So any takeaways or suggestions or anything that you want to add about the summer solstice before we wrap it up?
A powerful time to take into account that we are working with the celebration, the playfulness of summer with more daylight, more opportunities in that sense of consciousness, what's coming to our consciousness, because there is this thought that the light brings consciousness. Yet it is a yin sign, so to have trust that what we're birthing will manifest and to reap, but it's a big turning point. So
I would
enjoy.
say take time for yourself and to, get in touch with your feelings, your emotions. If it helps to journal or take a walk in nature, but it's also time, to get out there and picnic with friends and family in the neighborhood but still take time for yourself, that it's just not for everybody else.
This is good. Balance, a new sense
Mhm.
of balance. Yeah. Leaving that door ajar, onward, inside
Well,
and out.
and it is a change of season, so, you can work on, what do you wanna manifest over the next 3 months? It can be longer than 3 months, but what
Mm.
would you like to accomplish in the next 3 months, and even, what would I like to let go of so that I make room to open that new door?
Yes, what will be of service? That's right, with those Sabian symbols. We're on this voyage, but that did have that futuristic as a global energy because all the locations would be different. Thank you, Liz. This has been
So,
really special.
well, thank you for being here today, and I wanna encourage everybody to come back for more episodes of the Astrology Star Sisters Talk Over Tea. And our next one, we just decided as we were coming on that we're gonna talk about Ceres and the moon.
Yes, a dwarf planet, the inner dwarf planet, and the higher octaves of the moon suggested.
And here's some other upcoming episodes, the astrology forecast for July and the Capricorn full moon forecast with Justin and myself. And then a couple more astrology star sisters, Saturn return reality check with Simon Dunedin and myself, and then summer solstice, Cancer decans, combining astrology and tarot with Joy Vernon and myself. And then, as always, on the Talk Cosmos archetypal symbol team, we talk about the new moon, and this next one will be on 14 degrees Cancer, and it will be live on June 30th at 1 p.m. Pacific time. If you'd like to join it live, we'd love to see you there. And then here's Sue's. You want to talk about yours?
This is my website, and at the moment, I hope it's working, that if you sign up, you get this little short video that we did with a presentation, a paid presentation about change. Really, it's about the whole idea that we're going through transitions. And so thank you for following, and hope you do join when Justin and Liz and I are doing the new moon, because we have different shows and it's conversation. So awaken consciousness is good. Thank you.
And her show is every Sunday at 1 o'clock Pacific time. So she has many other topics for your enjoyment. And if you miss it live, you can always go to her YouTube channel and watch the replays.
Yeah, I might add that this coming one is going to be on vibrational astrology with the solstice, which has a different theme orientation. Linda Berry presents it. So I really appreciated having this opportunity, Liz, to talk about other factors involved with the chart, such as we know. But Linda always presents a fascinating theme that vibrational astrology comes up with their techniques about what the season will bring.
And then again, here's Sue's information at talkcosmos.com and my own, alightpath.com. And I also have a weekly newsletter that you can sign up under the subscribe tab on my website if you're interested. And please consider subscribing to my channel and leave a like. Thank you for your support, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Yay.